Welcome, everyone. This is Headline News. I'm Mike Galanos.
And I'm Rudi Bakhtiar. Let's get right to our headlines. Alaska is now the only state left with open polls. The numbers are still rolling in. CNN projects President Bush has clinched a total of 193 electoral votes so far, and Senator John Kerry has 133.
Arab network Al Jazeera says it has obtained a new videotape of a kidnapped relief worker pleading for her life. It says the captors of Margaret Hassan are threatening to hand her over to a group connected to al-Qaeda. The militant group is now demanding that Britain withdraw its troops from Iraq within 48 hours.
And jurors in the Scott Peterson trial are expected to begin deliberations tomorrow. During closing arguments, the defense argued not to decide Peterson's guilt or innocence based on whether they liked him or not. His attorney says the prosecution has portrayed him as a, quote, liar, but not a guilty man.
Well, the polls have closed in 5 states, and CNN has just projected several more wins.
Yeah, let's hand it over to Erica Hill for the latest results. Erica.
All right, we'll take a look first at Pennsylvania. This is a state we've been looking at all night because, as we've mentioned, it is one of those key battleground states. CNN now projecting the 21 electoral votes in the Keystone State will go to Senator Kerry, and they've both spent a lot of time in the state over the last few months. California, no big surprise here. CNN projecting all 55 electoral votes in California will end up in Senator Kerry's column. Moving on now to the state of Idaho. This one, too, the polls just closing in Idaho, as they did just close in California. 4 electoral votes CNN projects will go to President Bush, and that one also was expected. Taking a look now at what is happening in the state of Wisconsin. We have 23% of the precincts reporting. As you can see, President Bush with the lead right now, 54% of the vote. And that, again, in the state of Wisconsin, which is one of our showdown states, a place where residents can register to vote up until today. In Ohio, this perhaps one of the most watched states. We're going to give it a lot of time tonight. 51% of the precincts reporting. At this point, Senator Kerry, 48% of the vote. President Bush, 52%. So actually getting a little bit closer, it seems, as we get more precincts reporting in Ohio and in Florida. Well, Florida now up to 91% and looking good for President Bush, because 91% of the precincts reporting, President Bush showing 52% of the vote there in Florida. Taking a look at how things are shaping up now across the country, you can see some of the states changing from gray over here in the western part of the country because polls closing at 11 o'clock. Again, just one state to go, the state of Alaska, the last gray state. President Bush now, CNN projects 197 electoral votes. Compare that to Senator Kerry's 188. And just because there's only one state left that the polls are still open in the state of Alaska, remember, all these white states we see on the map, these are all states where the polls have closed. But Rudy, Mike, we don't yet have enough information to project a winner. So don't go anywhere. We're going to need you to for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure of that.
We're going to need you for a while.
Oh, I'm here with you. Don't worry.
All right. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks very much. We're going to check back in with Erica at the bottom of the hour.
That's right. And also, if anybody wants to check out the updated election results, you can do it on our ticker throughout the evening. All right, moving on now. President Bush and Senator Kerry are monitoring the returns from their respective homes. The president returned to the White House after making stops in several states. Among them was a last-minute meeting with supporters and campaign volunteers in Columbus, Ohio.
I've seen enthusiasm, a willingness for people to put in extra hours of work, and we'll find out how it goes tonight. This election is in the best of hands. It's in the hands of the voters of Ohio and voters all around the country.
Earlier, the president voted in Crawford, Texas. The Republican emerging from the polls telling reporters, quote, "I believe I'm going to win." And Senator Kerry voted at the Massachusetts State House in Boston. The Democrat says his campaign has been an amazing, wonderful journey.
Whatever the outcome tonight, I know one thing that is already an outcome. Our country will be stronger. Our country will be united, and we will move forward no matter what, because that's who we are as Americans, and that's what we need to do.
After voting, Kerry left the polls flashing the thumbs up sign.
Well, it was a challenging election for some Ohio voters today. Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens rejected an appeal of a lower court ruling allowing so-called challengers to question the validity of some voter registrations in the state. Thousands of challengers from both the Democrat and Republican Party went to polling sites to monitor votes, but there were relatively few reports of the challengers actually disputing people's registrations. And with observers keeping their eyes peeled in Florida, a legal coalition has filed suit to extend the deadline for counting absentee ballots there. The move follows heavy publicity surrounding some 60,000 absentee ballots from predominantly Democratic Broward County. Some were lost, but most were sent late by state officials. The suit asks that the deadline be extended until November 12th, which is the deadline for overseas ballots.
And in South Dakota, a federal judge ordered supporters of Republican candidate John Thune to stop following Native Americans to polling places and copying down their license plate numbers. Now, the restraining order is part of a lawsuit filed against Thune by Senate Minority Leader Tom Daschle. It accuses Republicans of intimidating Native American voters. Thune and Daschle are battling for the Senate seat that the Democrat has held since 1987.
And among some of the other Senate races we're keeping tabs on tonight is the highly watched race in Illinois. Earlier, Republican candidate Alan Keyes conceded the race to Barack Obama. It was the country's first Senate race where both the major parties nominated African-American candidates. Also want to tell you what's going on in California. We mentioned just a moment ago polls closing there, and already CNN projecting that Barbara Boxer will retain her seat in California. One of the most expensive Senate races in history is shaping up to be one of the tightest in 2004, and it's taking place in Colorado. Republican Pete Coors and Democrat Ken Salazar are virtually neck and neck there. And it's another close race in Kentucky between Republican incumbent Jim Bunning and Democratic challenger Jan Mongiaro. 34 Senate seats are up for election this year.
Kidnappers holding Margaret Hassan, the head of Kerry International in Iraq, are threatening to turn her over to an al-Qaeda-linked group. That group is responsible for at least 6 hostage beheadings. The Arabic language news network Al Jazeera has obtained a third tape in which Hassan appears and opted not to air it because they believe it was too graphic. Kidnappers are demanding that Britain withdraw its troops from Iraq. Hassan herself has lived in Iraq for 30 years. Now, that same al-Qaeda-linked group, led by Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, is claiming responsibility for the beheading of a Japanese hostage. His body was found this weekend wrapped in an American flag. And at least a dozen people were killed by a car bomb today in Baghdad as well as Mosul as the pressure increases for Iraq's interim prime minister to avert a full-scale U.S. attack on Fallujah. Some diplomats speculate that the kidnapping of an American and 2 other foreigners on Monday may be intended to pressure the U.S. against such an assault. In the meantime, saboteurs blew up an oil pipeline and attacked an oil well in northern Iraq today. That's expected to cut off Iraqi oil exports for the next 10 days.
Even under the best post-war recovery scenario, Iraqi officials say people in Baghdad can expect power blackouts through 2009. Electricity is cut off several hours each day throughout the country to spread around available supplies since the already troubled power grid was damaged even more in the war. And officials say if Iraq does not get enough money to repair and build plants and transmission lines, and if sabotage continues, blackouts could be common well past the end of the decade.
A volcano sitting on the Atlantic Rift in Iceland is causing some concern. More on the eruption coming up.
Plus, a woman tried to throw herself off a 10-story building in Chile. That daring rescue after the break.
You have the most beautiful hands. Can't believe you.
Canon helps you realize the potential of every day. From seamlessly integrating the paper and digital worlds, to the introduction of affordable quality color, to the ability to share documents and ideas. Canon helps people work the way they need to, so the end of your day is as good as the beginning.
No matter what kind of business is behind your door, King cleans it. From hotels, housekeeping, to hospitals, even schools and universities, and of course, offices. King cleans just about everything, including my personal favorite. I never get tired of this. Open the door to clean. King, the king of clean.
At Geico, we're all about happy customers. In fact, our customer satisfaction is at 97%. But to get the other 3%, we're going door to door across America. And just a little aside to the people of Grand Rapids, I didn't know that was meatloaf.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Wow, you have beautiful hands.
Uh-huh.
I can't believe this.
You're looking at live pictures from New York's Times Square, where CNN is broadcasting its election coverage on the 7th-story NASDAQ tower. We'll bring you the latest headlines on today's voting at 1/4 the hour. Stick around for that.
In other news, a suicidal woman in Chile is safe now thanks to firefighters and friends. During a 3-hour standoff, police repeatedly tried to convince her not to jump from the 10th floor of her apartment building. Firefighters and friends were ultimately able to reach the woman, snatching her to safety. Authorities say she'd been mixing medication for her depression with alcohol.
A volcano in Iceland has erupted, sending giant plumes of ash and smoke into the air. Meteorologists have warned pilots to avoid flying through the gases emitted by the blast. The eruption has set off tremors, but the area around the volcano is unpopulated. Officials are keeping an eye on it, though. During the 1800s, continuous eruptions damaged 1/4 of the island.
Well, believe it or not, folks, tonight the NBA season is underway with 3 games spread out on opening night.
Yeah, Matt Morrison is in with some of the latest action. Kind of surprising they'd start, though, on election night. But I guess for those that want a diversion, they've got it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's only 3 games, and they didn't try to, go too heavy on the schedule.
It's perfect. You vote, and then you can watch basketball.
Yeah, we do need a little bit of a diversion, too, by the way. Now, if the balance of power in the NBA is shifting from west to east, the Detroit Pistons occupy that vast middle ground and remain the team to beat. The Pistons opening tonight with their championship rings getting delivered, and this is a nice touch. They delivered a championship ring to one of their fans to show appreciation. Tracy McGrady with the new look Houston Rockets, the NBA's leading scorer last year with Orlando, scored 18 in his debut with Houston, but the Pistons came on strong. That's Ben Wallace off the shot from Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace led the way with 24, and the Pistons get a balanced effort in an 87-79 opening night win. Now, another good one in the Western Conference. The Kings might be on the downslide. The Mavericks might be on the upswing. Dirk Nowitzki, though, continues to do what he's always done in Dallas, and that is pump in points. He scored 33 tonight. A couple of big three-pointers there in the 3rd period, and the Mavericks win over Sacramento 107-98. Shaquille O'Neal's Miami Heat debut may be delayed. The All-Star center has a strained left hamstring, and he'll be a game-time decision Wednesday night. Shaq missed the last 3 preseason games, and the hamstring gave him problems in practice today. Miami opens on the road Wednesday night in New Jersey. So that is what's going on around the NBA, and the Pistons undefeated. The defending champs getting their thing done.
Yeah, 1-0. Good start. Matt, thanks.
All right, thanks, Matt. Voters in 11 states are deciding bans on gay marriage. Stay tuned to see who's celebrating and who's not.
And polls in more than 24 states are closed, but the presidential race can go either way. We'll have more results after the break.
Headline Sports is brought to you by Hyatt Gold Passport. Visit goldpassport.com to join and for more details.
Who knew blood was so
big and chocolatey with a little birdie? Come on, behave yourself. Focus. Especially right now.
You should know what's in this stuff. Feels like
Licorice with
a little piece of heaven between my
outstanding
toes.
Free time to create your own story. Hyatt Gold Passport's Faster Free Nights is back. Every 2 stays earn you a free night at Hyatt's worldwide when you pay through MasterCard. Now through February 28th.
The world's largest fully electronic stock exchange.
Yeah, that's right. My check card was stolen. They spent $1,280? Wow. No, it's just I'm going on vacation in, a week.
If your check card is ever lost or stolen and used.
So how long will it take to get my money back? Tomorrow?
We'll put back the missing money next business day.
Tomorrow's...
Guaranteed.
Tomorrow's great.
Bank of America. Higher standards.
Welcome again, everyone. This is Headline News. I'm Mike Galanos.
And I'm Rudi Bakhtiar. Here are the hour's headlines for you.
The numbers are coming in fast, and so far they're favoring President Bush, but the gap narrowed in the past few minutes as early projections came in from the western states. They give President Bush 197 of the 270 electoral votes needed to win a second term. Challenger John Kerry has 188. CNN projects he'll take the rich prize of California with its 55 electoral votes.
Iraqi oil engineers say sabotage has shut down oil exports from the north, probably for the next 10 days. Attackers blew up an oil pipeline and a well today in 2 strikes. In northern Iraq, insurgents have frequently targeted the country's oil industry.
The third of 7 U.S. soldiers charged in the Abu Ghraib prison scandal has pleaded guilty. Megan Ambule entered her plea at a court-martial in Baghdad. She has been demoted from specialist to private and has been docked a half month's pay.
Well, Mike, Florida, of course, was the key state in election 2000.
And here we are again with its 27 electoral votes, again bitterly contested. Let's go back to our election desk and rejoin Chuck Roberts. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Mike and Rudy, thanks. A large portion of Florida precincts have already reported, and they are all favoring President Bush. It looks like he may carry it. It's too soon to tell. If the Sunshine State does go to the president, what kind of challenge would that present the Kerry campaign? How can he pull this off? I'm joined again by Terry Neal, the chief political correspondent for WashingtonPost.com. Terry, welcome back. Let's take, first of all, a look at the raw Florida numbers. Bush is up 52 to 47%, with 94% of Florida already counted. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it looks to me like it's probably going to go towards Bush. I think that Kerry obviously would have liked to have picked up the Sunshine State, but the bottom line is that Bush won that state in 2000. For whatever that is, and people that argue about whether he won or not, but he did. But it went down as a Bush win. So it really turns the focus to some other states. It puts pressure on John Kerry now to pick up other states that Bush won in 2000.
Let's take a look at Ohio. With 56% reported, Bush is up 52 to 48.
Yeah, it's still real close in Ohio. We don't know where the 44% of the precincts are that haven't been counted yet. This could still go either way. Technically, if you look at the numbers, John Kerry could still win this, even if he loses Ohio. But it would be very, very difficult.
He would have to run the table.
He would have to run the table on a few other smalls. Basically, he would have to hold every single thing that Al Gore won in 2000, and then he'd have to win probably some combination of Colorado and Nevada or Colorado and New Hampshire. That's going to be very difficult for him to do. I think he's running behind in Colorado right now. So if he doesn't win Ohio, it's probably going to be a very tough night for John Kerry.
New Mexico?
Well, I mean, New Mexico is another state that he could win if he won. I believe New Hampshire and Nevada. Well, actually, no. New Mexico is a state that went ultimately for Gore. Yeah. So I mean, he needs to pick up some Bush states here.
All of the changes we thought that evolved from 2000 to 2004 have not come into play, really, have they? It's pretty much the same conventional wisdom.
It really is. I mean, a lot of the conventional wisdom was. I mean, all of the models here were sort of based on what happened in 2000. I was thinking that there might be some room for some different things to happen, but basically we're looking at a replay of 2000. One of the conventional wisdom things that may turn out to not be true is this idea that a huge turnout, however, helps Democrats. So far, it doesn't seem to be working necessarily in their favor. I mean, really, both parties are doing a good job of holding what they won in 2000, but it doesn't look like there's any, having a huge turnout has created any sort of wave for the Democrats.
Nor has the youth vote materialized.
Well, the youth vote in terms of pure numbers is up, but in terms of proportion of the overall electorate, it's about the same as it was in 2000.
Something like
about
that.
10%. Yeah.
Terry Neal, thanks. We'll talk soon. Poll closing times have passed for all states now except Alaska, including Hawaii. Hawaii is just closed. We'll stay on top of the late numbers across the country, but right now, back to Rudy and Mike.
All right, Chuck, Terry, thanks very much. And you can get election results from your area online at CNN.com. Just enter your zip code in the Election Essentials bar on the right side of the screen for continuously updated results throughout the night. And from Tokyo to Berlin, from Moscow to Tel Aviv, people around the world are watching and weighing in on the American election. Polls in many countries and media surveys show that Senator Kerry is the preferred winner across much of the globe. Many people believe the election is not just a domestic issue because the outcome will affect global policy. Polls in Germany run as high as 80% against President Bush. But Russia's president suggested the president would be better at controlling terrorism.
CNN is projecting voters in at least 6 states have voted to ban same-sex marriages. That would be Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, Ohio, and Oklahoma. Michigan, Montana, North Dakota, Oregon, and Utah also had the issue on the ballot. Gay rights groups have concentrated much of their effort and money in Oregon, where they thought they had the best chance of defeating the ban. Also, pot smokers in Alaska are trying to pass a ballot measure that would legalize marijuana there. If voters approve, adults will be allowed to use, grow, and sell marijuana under regulations adopted by the legislature. It would make Alaska the first state to decriminalize marijuana. The federal drug czar has denounced the measure.
The defense in the Scott Peterson double murder trial claims the prosecution's strategy was to make the jury hate Peterson. In his closing argument, attorney Mike Galanos said prosecutors failed to prove Peterson murdered his pregnant wife and unborn child. He says the prosecution portrayed Peterson as a jerk and a liar, but they did not prove he is guilty of the charges. The prosecution presented its closing argument Monday. The jury could begin deliberations tomorrow. Well, they showed up early, but did they expect to stay late? Americans rock the vote in record numbers. That story's next.
And it's lights, camera, action for filmmaker Michael Moore. Just where are his cameras pointed this time? We're going to tell you when CNN Headline News continues.
If you have great credit, shouldn't you get a better rate on your home equity line? At eLoan, you do. We process your loan differently, online. That costs less, so you get a great rate with no lender fees. Apply today at eLoan.com.
From Sharper Image, the patented Ionic Breeze Quadra cleans and circulates air with no fans, no filters, and is totally silent. According to AC Nielsen, it's America's most trusted brand of air purifier and #1 in customer satisfaction. The Ionic Breeze removes allergens such as pollen, animal dander, also airborne bacteria, viruses, and mold, and helps leave your house smelling fresh and clean. Maintenance is easy. Just pull out the collection grid, wipe it with a cloth or sponge, and slip it back in. Through this special offer, you'll receive a $69 bathroom Ionic Breeze. It will help even dirty bathrooms smell fresh and clean. And a $39 car Ionic Breeze for cleaner air wherever you go. That's over $100 in gifts, free with your order. Call now and get a free 5-year replacement guarantee and ask about free shipping.
Call 1-800-815-9441. That's 1-800-815-9441.
Due to our successful TV and radio campaigns, America's largest manufacturer of steel buildings is offering huge savings on select models.
My husband wanted a building where he could store all of his valuable belongings. Well, I wanted something that would look great on our property. We both found what we wanted at U.S. Buildings.
They're durable, long-lasting, even fire-resistant.
Thanks to their easy-to-read step-by-step construction manual and excellent customer support, our building was constructed in 1 weekend.
These specials won't last long. Buy now and save. Call U.S. Buildings today.
Now through Election Day, CNN brings you more Inside Politics. A full 90 minutes of today's political news, the issues, the angles, Inside Politics. Judy Woodruff's Inside Politics. CNN tomorrow at a new time, 3 Eastern.
Welcome back, everyone. Record voter turnout across the country has translated into some record-long waits to get to that ballot box. Voters in Ohio were faced with the longest lines in years today. Late voting was reported in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Mexico because of long lines at the polls. Also, lines stretching outside polling stations were reported in parts of the nation's capital. Many precincts in Virginia also reported extremely heavy turnout. And over 1 million voters in Tennessee took advantage of the state's state's early voting system, but that didn't stop huge lines from log-jamming polling stations in Nashville.
And long lines aren't the only issues that turned up on Election Day. Republicans in Seminole County, Florida, obtained a restraining order to stop Democrats from handing out flyers to GOP poll watchers. The pamphlets urge them to, quote, recognize the importance of the role and understand the repercussions for abusing it. Also, police in Milwaukee, Wisconsin are investigating vandalism to 20 vans the GOP rented for its Get Out the Vote effort. Police say the vans had their tires slashed early Tuesday morning. No one has been arrested. And the Bush Cheney communications director for Pennsylvania tells CNN GOP attorneys may file suit to impound several voting machines in Philadelphia. Says the machines had votes already on them when the polls opened. Spokesman for the Kerry campaign in Pennsylvania was at one poll in question. He says an election judge saw 3 people who were not authorized to be there looking at the machine shortly before voting began. Philadelphia City Commissioner denies any of the machines were improperly calibrated.
Most of you haven't been casting ballots on those electronic voting machines you've heard so much about. About 74% of voters use the same voting equipment they did back in the year 2000. 19 states using punch cards where paper chads are removed using a pen-shaped stylus. Now, 18 states used lever machines. Standard paper ballots are used in 20 different states. Optical scan ballots, where you can bubble in your candidate with a number 2 pencil, are used in 43 states. Precincts in 28 states used electronic voting devices.
Filmmaker Michael Moore has his cameras rolling today. The director of the controversial movie Fahrenheit 9/11 told CNN's Anderson Cooper he planned to put cameras at polling places in Ohio and Florida to be sure there's no voter intimidation.
I've put together this army of 1,200 cameras in Ohio and Florida to make sure there's no cheating. They don't get away with what they got away with in 2000.
Would you be
that's my
fine?
contribution as a citizen. And this isn't for a film I'm doing. I'm not making a movie.
Moore also said he'd focus on areas with a large number of minority voters.
Call it one small step for the 2004 election and one giant leap for democracy. The first ever outer space presidential vote has been cast by space station astronaut and member of the U.S. electorate, Leroy Chow. Now, he submitted his vote through a secure email connection to Mission Control in Houston. Chow refused to divulge his pick, but said regardless of who wins, the White House should continue with plans to further explore Mars and the moon.
Well, the last time around it was Florida, but this election year some other states may have the dubious honor of generating the most controversy.
And Ohio is one of them. In just a few minutes, we're going to see if any of those last-minute snafus that pundits predicted there actually materialize. And we've got up-to-the-minute election results every 15 minutes here on CNN Headline News. Stay with us.
How much are you paying for internet service? $21? $23? Aren't you being charged too much? We think so. With People PC Online, you get unlimited internet access for only $10.95 a month. Go to peoplepc.com now to try us free for 30 days and compare us with your current ISP. With People PC Online, you get internet service for less than half of what the big guys cost. And that's just the beginning. You also get more local access numbers than AOL, plus a smart dialer that automatically chooses the fastest, most reliable number. So you always get the best connection. All for just $10.95 a month. Try People PC Online free for 30 days and see for yourself. Go to peoplepc.com for a quick 3-minute download of our easy-to-use software. Or call 1-800-PEOPLE-PC. People PC Online, a better way to internet.
CNN Headline News, 24/7.
Jack FM. Playing what we want. 96.9 Jack FM. Playing what we want.
Coming this fall to CBC television.
So broken. Evil is stirring.
My name is Anya Petri. I've been publicly accused of trafficking.
This nation will never surrender its democracy.
Being part of a family on Coronation Street is completely mad.
Wait, small boys! Look, you can't even skate! You're gonna have a heart attack. Bro.
Hello and welcome to Headline News Tonight. I'm Rudi Bakhtiar.
Now, Mike Galanos, let's get straight to the headlines. Election workers in Florida will need until at least Thursday to count tens of thousands of absentee ballots. They could be a huge factor in the contentious presidential race. Right now, President Bush has a slim lead with 197 electoral votes to Senator Kerry's 188. Polls in Alaska don't close until 1 a.m. Eastern.
Oil prices fell below a benchmark on Election Day as analysts speculated how the outcome would affect the market. Crude prices were off 51 cents to close at $49.62. Prices have tumbled nearly 11% since their record high on October 25th.
Car bombing in Baghdad killed at least 8 people today and wounded at least 10. The car rammed in a concrete blast wall surrounding the education ministry. Another car bomb in the northern city of Mosul killed at least 4 people.
Polls have closed in all states except Alaska.
Erica Hill has been keeping track of the electoral map. She joins us now with an update. What do you got?
That's right. We're working on filling in a few states, maybe adding some color to the map here. But right now, let's take a look at the state of New Mexico. CNN is not projecting a winner in the state at this hour, but we would just like to show you what's happening here. 49% of the precincts in New Mexico reporting, and we're showing President Bush with 52% of those votes. We should mention in New Mexico, it has been basically a dead heat recently. Those polls close at 9 o'clock. The polls also close at 9 o'clock in the state of Michigan. This is a big showdown state. 10 electoral votes up for grabs here. Currently 33%, 1/3 of the precincts reporting, and we're showing a very slim margin for Senator Kerry, just a couple of percentage points there. In Wisconsin, yet another showdown state. This one also 10 electoral votes up for grabs. You've got 31% of the precincts reporting, and this time we're seeing a bit of a lead for President Bush in the state of Wisconsin. And in Minnesota, yet another 10 electoral votes, also a showdown state. You seeing a trend here, folks? 31% of the precincts reporting in Minnesota, and it looks like Senator Kerry taking the lead with those 31%. Again, though, we're not sure where those precincts are, so things could end up changing a little bit. Senator Kerry, however, is the projected winner by CNN in Pennsylvania, and this is key because, as we've been talking about, Pennsylvania, a battleground state, both candidates have spent a significant amount of time in the state really trying to shore up some votes there. And again, CNN projecting Senator Kerry the winner in Pennsylvania. As you can see, updating the electoral map for you across the country. Right now, CNN projecting President Bush with 197 electoral votes compared to Senator Kerry's 188. And just a reminder here, 270 electoral votes are needed to win the White House, to win the Electoral College, we should say. There are 538 electoral votes up for grabs. So far, the states, with 535 of those votes, have closed their polls. But as you can see by all the white on the map, if there's white in a state, that means, of course, Rudy and Mike, the polls have closed, but results not in, projection not in, and not enough information for us to make a projection at this point. So still a lot up for grabs.
Yes, everything hanging in the balance.
Yeah, that it is. Better than a hanging chab, though.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Well put. All right, Erica, thanks. And we're going to be checking back in with Erica in about 30 minutes.
In the meantime, though, you can see continuously updated election results on our ticker throughout the evening. All right, thousands of absentee ballots that potentially could make a difference in Florida won't be counted until Thursday. Miami-Dade County officials say election workers have been overwhelmed by the task of counting as many as 95,000 of the ballots. The local election supervisor promises they'll be finished by 12 noon Eastern on Thursday. A spokeswoman for Florida's Secretary of State says that's the deadline for all votes to be counted. A coalition of activists has filed a federal lawsuit seeking to extend that deadline for all absentee ballots to November 12th.
In the Senate, Republicans are fighting to maintain a majority. 34 seats are on the ballot around the nation, and several of the races appear to be competitive. Now, Illinois is not among them. CNN projects Democrat Barack Obama has handily prevailed over Republican Alan Keyes. Obama gave a keynote speech at the Democratic National Convention. He will replace Republican Peter Fitzgerald, who is stepping down after a single term. Let's check some of the other tight Senate races in South Dakota. Senate Minority Leader Tom Daschle is trying to weather a strong challenge by Republican John Thune. CNN has not yet projected a winner in this one. It's down to just about 1,000 votes there. And in Florida, Democrat Betty Castor and Republican Mel Martinez are locked in a struggle over the Senate seat being vacated by retiring Democrat Bob Graham. CNN, again, has not yet projected a winner in that race. Again, razor thin.
In Kentucky, Republican Senator Jim Bunning is fighting off a fierce challenge from Democrat Daniel Mangiardo for a second term. Their bitter campaign involved personal attacks as well. CNN has not yet projected a winner in that race. Then to Colorado, Republican Pete Coors and Democrat Ken Salazar are wrestling for the Senate seat of retiring Republican Ben Nighthorse Campbell. CNN hasn't projected a winner in that race either.
For California's 55 electoral votes went to Democratic challenger John Kerry. How did that happen in a state with a popular Republican governor? Here's CNN's Bill Schneider.
More than two-thirds of California voters say they like Arnold Schwarzenegger's 69% approval rating. President Bush would kill for a 69% approval rating. Why didn't it translate into a Bush victory? Because almost half of the people who like Governor Schwarzenegger, the Republican, voted for John Kerry. The lesson here is Schwarzenegger's appeal goes way beyond the Republican Party. That's how he got elected. He gets a lot of support from Democrats.
In Ohio, election officials reported record turnout, and despite some pre-election legal challenges, fears about partisan challenges at the polls didn't really materialize. Susanna Meadows is an editor for Newsweek magazine. She's joining us now by phone from Columbus, Ohio. Susanna, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Before we talk about those problems, let's talk about voter turnout. What have you seen so far?
It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Every polling place I went, lines out the door, people talking about waiting on average 2 to 3 hours, and nobody left. That was the amazing thing. People would wait the entire time, and they wouldn't get discouraged. They weren't going anywhere.
Let's talk about, you had a chance to speak to people all day. What were their reactions in terms of who they were supporting or not supporting?
Most of the people I talked to were supporting John Kerry. They were, but I was speaking to people who tended to be in Democratic areas, so that wasn't so striking. But what was striking was almost everyone I talked to said this was the first time they were voting, and they were excited about being there. Even 3 hours after waiting, they were smiling. It was really something to see.
Let's talk about some of the problems. You had the issue of Flyergate over there. Democrats who were told to vote on Wednesday instead of on Tuesday. You also had earlier today U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens ending the attempts to keep thousands of challengers from the Ohio polls. What kind of problems went wrong or didn't go wrong today over there?
The striking thing was after all this buildup, after so much anticipation of chaos and all the legal wrangling, there were small brush fires. There was nothing systemic. There was really no big problem. It was the usual snags, the usual sort of, not knowing what to do here and there. But it was boards of election across the state are saying that it actually went very smoothly.
All right, let's put Ohio in context. It's one of the big swing states that everyone's been following, with 20 electoral votes up for grabs. In fact, no Republican has ever won the presidency without Ohio. Kerry himself spent most time in Ohio than any other state, 28 times since March. How big of a deal is Ohio, and why?
It's huge. I don't think you can overstate it. And what's more is if the vote is within the margin of provisional ballots issued, which is many thousands of provisional ballots were issued, and if the vote is close enough, they're going to have to count these provisional ballots, and they won't even start counting for 10 days. So we might not know the result of Ohio for another 10 days.
Ooh, that doesn't paint a pretty picture, but thank you, Susanna Meadows from Newsweek. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Rudy.
Well, it was a roller coaster day on Wall Street. Blue chip stocks ended on a down note after unconfirmed internet spread rumors about exit polls triggered a sharp reversal. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 18 points to close at 10,035. The other indexes finished marginally higher, with the S&P edging up less than a point and the NASDAQ increasing almost 5 points.
What kind of effect will the results of today's presidential election have on your stock portfolio? Well, historically, if the incumbent wins, the markets generally go up the following year. And if the challenger wins, the markets head south. However, long-term, the stock market has performed better under a Democratic president.
Well, the new NBA season opens a lot like the last one ended with a Pistons win. We're going to have highlights from tonight's games.
And the issue of gay marriage goes to voters. We're going to have the latest on proposals to ban gay marriage in nearly a dozen states.
Into this marriage, you are creating a legal agreement.
Business Today is brought to you by Sprint. With Sprint, business is beautiful.
This is Stan. Stan knows IT. And Stan knows if there's any news from headquarters, he can use Sprint to connect wirelessly and order parts instantly. Sprint helps Stan and 2,500 HP service engineers do their job faster, which saves HP millions in overtime. With Sprint, Stan's world is efficient, wireless, beautiful. Learn more at sprint.com.
Someone in your company is stealing from you daily, and it's not human. Don't let your printer steal company profits.
Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright, 'cause I only have eyes for you. Dear the...
When diet and exercise aren't enough, adding Lipitor can help lower your bad cholesterol from 39 to 60%. In fact, more cardiologists surveyed would prescribe Lipitor for their own family members than any other cholesterol medicine. Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver problems and women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. Simple blood tests are needed to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor about other medications you are taking, or if you experience muscle pain or weakness, as they may be a sign of a serious side effect. So take the next step. Ask your doctor about the benefits of Lipitor.
Welcome back, everyone. He says the Democrats played dirty tricks to try to keep him off the ballot, but independent candidate Ralph Nader still thinks Senator John Kerry will win the presidency.
Well, I said that anybody's better than George W. Bush. I mean, you know, he's just a big corporation disguised as a human being, time and time again. As 2/3 of the American people conclude, he sides with big business, against workers, against consumers, against the environment, you name it. Big business is his mantra, and that's not where the President of the United States should be.
Well, CNN has projected that voters in at least 10 states have voted to ban same-sex marriages. They are Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi, Montana, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Utah. Now, Oregon, the only one of those states where the voting might be a little closer on that issue. In Georgia, gay rights activists have announced they will challenge the newly approved amendment in court.
The NBA season is now underway, and the defending champs opened in style in Detroit.
Opening up for us with some highlights on day one of the NBA season. Kind of lost in the election shuffle, but as we mentioned, a nice little diversion for the sports fan.
A couple of games to spread out on the big board. We can do that. While many big-name players change teams in the offseason, the Pistons roster remains largely unchanged coming off their championship season, though there is one noticeable difference in Detroit, and that's the jewelry. Check out the championship rings, worth $7 grand each. Big old rocks, but they weren't wearing them when they were playing the Houston Rockets on opening night. The Rockets are looking a little bit different with the NBA's leading scorer, Tracy McGrady, coming over from Orlando. He netted 18 points, but it wasn't enough against the Pistons. Rasheed Wallace hit 24. Misses here, but Ben Wallace comes up with a big slam, and it is the Pistons opening with a win, 87-79. Another good game in the Western Conference. This one featuring the Sacramento Kings traveling to Dallas to take on the Mavericks. No answer for Dirk Nowitzki, though. The sharp-shooting Dallas center from way outside, knocking down the 3-ball all night long. Nowitzki hit 33 points. The Mavericks win 107-98. Now, add injury to insult after the New England Patriots' first loss in over a year. The Pats also lost Pro Bowl cornerback Ty Law for the next 4 to 6 weeks. His agent told the Boston Globe that Law has a broken bone in his left foot and will miss the next several games. Derek Jeter heads the list of American League Gold Glove winners. It's the first time that the Yankees captain has won that defensive honor. Other AL winners this year include the Tigers' Ivan Rodriguez. His 11th Gold Glove is a record for a catcher. And first baseman Darren Erstad of Anaheim is the first player in Major League history to win a Gold Glove as both an outfielder and now an infielder. So significant, Mike and Rudy, a couple of first-time honorees. Derek Jeter getting that award, kind of surprising that a guy who's been around as long as he has never won the Gold Glove. Of course, A-Rod was the guy.
Some say A-Rod's even the better shortstop on that team.
Not this year.
Not this year. Thanks, Matt.
Are we going to get into this on election night? I hope not. All right. Election results are still coming in from all over the country.
Just ahead, the candidates and their supporters gather around TV sets for the latest returns. We'll tell you where things stand when we return.
Service and support. Can I help you?
You're there.
Yes, sir. We're here 24/7.
24/7, 365?
365.
What about leap year?
366.
What about Arbor Day?
Yes, sir. We're here on Arbor Day.
Hanukkah?
We're here.
Cinco de Mayo?
Aquí.
What?
Here. It's Spanish. It was a joke. We're here.
Plague?
Here.
Pestilence?
Here.
Locusts?
Locusts?
Yeah, you know, like a horde of locusts coming down your street.
Yes, sir. Someone will be here for you.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
I'll call you in an hour.
Rest easy with award-winning service and support behind every Dell PC. Right now, get 10% off this Dimension desktop with an Intel Celeron processor. It's yours for the amazing price of $495 after instant savings. Plus, get a free hard drive upgrade. And notebooks start at just $720. But you better call or go online soon. These offers end November 3rd.
When's Secretary's Day?
Get more out of service and support with Dell. And get more out of now. Dell PCs use Intel Celeron processors.
It all starts with a chip. A chip that contains world-leading technology, together with Samsung's superior engineering and design. It does so much more. It inspires. It enriches. It's the soul of Samsung, and it's in everything we create. Experience the power within. Samsung.
It's like a...
Yep, new brakes. And now they're only $29.95. Monarchy, right service, right price.
CNN tomorrow. The race is done. Now, who won? Get all the latest on Election 04. Only on Larry King Live. CNN tomorrow, 9 Eastern.
Welcome, everyone. This is Headline News. I'm Mike Galanos.
And I'm Rudi Bakhtiar. Here are our headlines right now. California and Pennsylvania are among the states newly projected to go to Senator John Kerry. Idaho and Missouri are among those newly projected to land in President Bush's column. The latest tally in the Electoral College shows the president with, let's see, do we have those numbers, updated numbers yet? The president with 197, Senator Kerry with 198.
64-year-old Charles Robert Jenkins has pleaded guilty to deserting the Army 39 years ago. At a military tribunal in Japan, Jenkins admitted leaving his unit in South Korea to avoid hazardous duty, then fleeing to North Korea. The Japanese government has asked the U.S. to be lenient with Jenkins, whose wife is Japanese. One-by-one states are being projected red or blue.
But a number of key states remain in play. More now from our election desk and Chuck Roberts, who's standing by. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Rudy and Mike, thanks. Results and projections are trickling in, but we know a lot more than we did earlier. Which states does John Kerry have to win now before the night is over? Will he have to take Michigan and Wisconsin? And what about Florida? We're joined again by Michelle Mitchell, correspondent for PBS is Now. Let's first of all, Michelle, take a look at the overall electoral map. It's 197, 188. Bush is ahead by those 9 electoral votes. But what is key is Ohio. I think everybody agrees that since Florida is now leaning toward the president, that John Kerry must take Ohio. And here are the latest numbers from the Buckeye State. The president enjoys a a 52-48% lead with 64% reporting, but we haven't heard from some of the urban senators.
Exactly, and that's where actually the Kerry campaign says that they are going to do just fine in Ohio. Now, both campaigns are saying Ohio is going to be ours, which of course is what you would say if you were running for president, and it's down to the state of Ohio. The Democrats right now feeling fairly confident about those urban areas, Chuck, but as has been reported repeatedly, the president, the White House feeling very confident about their chances.
Let's take a look at Iowa, another must-win state for Kerry if he loses Florida. In Iowa, the spread is 51-48. Kerry is in front in Iowa. Is that a surprise? Only half counted, though.
Well, this is a state that Kerry really made a charge at, and he went back with all of his most popular folks. He was back there with Howard Dean. He campaigned hard. This is a state that his campaign knows that they need to hold. Chuck, you know what this reminds me of? It's like Game 3 of the the playoffs to get to the World Series. And if you're the Yankees, you're feeling pretty confident right now. I'm not sure which guy is what team. I'm not saying John Kerry is the Boston Red Sox. What I am saying is it comes down right to the wire, and we know that. We knew that coming in, and both of these campaigns knew that as well.
All right, two more states while we have you here. Bush in New Mexico is up by 3 percentage points, 62% counted, I think, if we can call that up. There it is. And finally, in Wisconsin, it is Kerry country so far, 51-48%. 43% counted. It's going to be a long night.
He's got to keep Wisconsin, Chuck. He has to keep it.
All right, Michelle Mitchell, thanks so much. Stay with us throughout the night and into the morning. Yeah, the morning for the latest election results. Rudi and Mike, throw it back to you.
All right, thanks, Chuck. To other news now, the Sudanese government denies closing off refugee camps in the war-torn Darfur region. The United Nations says Sudanese security forces surround several camps and relocated refugees against their will. UN officials are saying that the troops denied humanitarian access to the refugees, and they believe Sudan is retaliating for the abduction of 18 Arabs by rebels in Darfur. Sudanese officials are denying that allegation. There are new allegations against Michael Jackson.
Actually, they are old allegations, but they're now just coming to light. Story straight ahead.
Remember that guy who used to be called Wild Thing? The guy who wanted to spend the entire honeymoon indoors? Remember the one who couldn't resist a little mischief? Yeah, that guy. He's back. Viagra. Not all medications are for everyone. Ask your doctor if Viagra is right for you. Someone in your company is stealing from you daily, and it's not human. Don't let your printer steal company profits.
Tired of arguing about which way to go and sick of asking strangers for directions? Looks like you're lost again. What you need is the Autopilot from Auto Club of America, the talking road navigator.
I-15 south.
Autopilot is as easy to use as a calculator. Just enter your current location, then put in your destination, and Autopilot tells you the best way to get there. It even tells you the miles and minutes.
2 hours, 35 minutes.
The Autopilot used global mapping technology to store over 100,000 different trip routes, saving you time, gas, and money. Plus, you can also access 80,000 different traveler services.
Shell. Exit in 3 minutes.
Look, you could spend thousands for a navigation system, or you can order the Autopilot for just 2 low payments of $19.95. Call now and we'll include this powerful AutoVac free. If you're not completely satisfied, return the Autopilot, but keep the AutoVac as our gift. Order now.
Order your Autopilot for $39.90 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-800-306-5600. That's 1-800-306-5600.
CNN Sunday Night, a CNN investigation. Inside Saudi Arabia. Is it a breeding ground for terrorism? An all-new CNN presents Kingdom on the Brink. CNN Sunday Night, 8 Eastern.
Well, voters in the Texas Panhandle had to deal with more than just long lines at polling station. Amarillo was hit with 8 inches of snow. A winter weather advisory has been issued in the region, predicting up to 4 more inches. With voter turnout projected to set a new record, there were some record-long waits to get to the ballot box. Voters in Ohio were faced with the longest lines in years today. Late voting was reported in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Mexico because of long lines at the polls. And lines stretching outside polling stations were reported in parts of the nation's capital. Many precincts in Virginia also reported extremely heavy turnout. More than 1 million voters in Tennessee took advantage of the state's early voting system, but that didn't prevent huge lines from log-jamming polling stations in Nashville.
The Supreme Court is debating a race-based prison policy in California. The policy, which dates back more than 25 years, allows officials to assign newly arrived African-American prisoners to bunk only with other black prisoners for 2 months or more. A convicted killer says he's been humiliated by the segregation. California officials argue the policy prevents violence between white and black gang members.
10,000 people rallied against violence in Amsterdam's Central Square. Filmmaker Theo van Gogh was killed in the Dutch city after making a film about the treatment of Islamic women. He was the great-grandson and namesake of Vincent van Gogh's brother. He was shot several times and stabbed while riding his bike. The 26-year-old Dutch Moroccan was arrested in connection with the killing. Van Gogh had received death threats for his fictional work, which featured a Muslim woman describing how she is beaten and raped.
On a much lighter note, some other people in the Netherlands are trying to get into the record books. They're attempting to create a world record chain of dominoes. The group of 80 Europeans walked around in socks, and they're using tweezers to carefully place many of what will eventually be 4.25 million dominoes. The current world record for domino toppling stands at 3,847,295, in case you're interested. They've been working for almost 2 months on this project. When they knock them over next week, the chain reaction should last 1.5 hours.
The claim of sexual assault and repressed memories highlight a new lawsuit filed against singer Michael Jackson. The accuser claims the incident happened 20 years ago, but he repressed the memory until recently. The suit filed in New Orleans federal court claims Jackson committed several offensive acts, including biting the accuser and cutting him with a razor blade. The man claims the abuse occurred over a 9-day period, part of it during a limousine ride from Louisiana to California. He says Jackson and his employees used physical force and other duress to restrain him and prevent him from calling for help.
A former model, actress, and math teacher who became one of Hollywood's most powerful studio heads says she's leaving the job next year when her contract expires. Sherry Lansing, chairwoman of Paramount Pictures, says she wants new challenges. Her announcement follows several management shakeups at parent company Viacom. It also comes after several years of lackluster performance at Paramount. In her heyday, Lansing was a key player in Oscar-winning blockbusters like Titanic, Braveheart, and Saving Private Ryan. Well, it'll be 4 more years, or will it be a brand new face in the Oval Office?
The race that has generated one of the largest voter turnouts ever is not over yet. We're staying with it every step of the way. Keep it on CNN Headline News. We've got your election headlines every 15 minutes and more updates coming in just 2 minutes.
Hey, I'll get this. Besides, I get airline miles. With your business card? Huh.
What is your credit card doing for your small business?
You earn miles on everything you buy? Yeah, from supplies to travel expenses.
The Citi Platinum Select Advantage Business Card. Call now and you could get 1 mile for every $1 you spend. Plus now, with 15,000 bonus miles, you could be more than halfway to an award ticket.
I use my miles for car rentals, hotels, on over 25 top airlines, even a well-earned vacation.
Plus, get benefits like account summaries, business discounts, online fraud protection, and more. Call to request the Citi Advantage Business Card. And now, get 15,000 bonus miles. And soon, your miles could take you almost anywhere.
Oh, Paris is great. And flying free? Makes it even better. Smart business decision.
The Citi Advantage Business Card. Call now to request your card and get 15,000 bonus miles.
CNN Headline News 24/7.
When made
major events happen, Canadians turn to CBC News.
Putting together a cabinet is a question of skill and regional balance.
Balanced coverage.
There's a harrowing story out of Winnipeg tonight.
I think the real question is, what are we going to do now?
Leading correspondents focus on news that affects you.
Black's legacy.
Look in the house. There's nothing left.
The source Canadians trust. CBC News, The National. Weeknights, 9 p.m. Eastern on CBC News World and 10 p.m. local on CBC Television.
What if we could stop a heart attack before it even starts? Research into the root causes of heart disease can make it happen. As a leading funder of heart and stroke research in Canada, we need your help. The Heart and Stroke Foundation, finding answers for life.
Closed captioning provided by Barbasol. For a close shave, better by Barbasol.
And welcome to CNN Headline News. Glad you're with us. I'm Mike Galanos.
And I'm Rudi Bakhtiar. Let's get right to our headlines. The polls are closed in every state but Alaska. The numbers are still rolling in, but CNN projects President Bush has clinched a total of 197 electoral votes so far, and Senator John Kerry has 188.
The jury in Scott Peterson's double murder trial could begin deliberations as soon as tomorrow. During today's closing arguments, defense attorney Mike Galanos said the evidence shows Peterson did not murder his wife, Lacey. He said prosecutors' attempts to malign Peterson's character are not enough reason to convict him.
Michael Jackson may have another legal headache on his hands. A man has filed a civil lawsuit accusing the singer of sexually assaulting him 20 years ago. The accuser, who says he was 18 at the time, claims he repressed the memories of the assault, which he says took place over a 9-day period.
All right, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty with several key states still up for grabs.
It's getting exciting. Let's hand it over now to Erica Hill for the latest results, including what's happening in Florida.
In Florida, and this, as you know, is one of the states we are watching most closely. And in the state of Florida right now, we're showing 97% of the precincts reporting. 52% we're showing going for President Bush, 47% for Senator Kerry. Now, keep in mind, there are some ballots that have not yet been counted. In addition to that, 3% of the precincts not reporting. Those include absentee ballots and also overseas ballots. In the state of Ohio, another one of these big battleground states, 70% of the precincts reporting. We are showing President Bush there, also with a lead of 52%, Senator Kerry with 48%. A little more margin still to go in that state in terms of precincts reporting, and some of those, maybe some of the more urban areas. Possibility for a change. We're going to keep an eye on that. In Wisconsin, 49%, almost halfway there. President Bush and Senator Kerry literally neck and neck at this point. We're showing Senator Kerry with a 1 percentage point lead in Wisconsin, with 50% of the vote there. In Michigan, we have 17 electoral votes up for grabs. The polls closed here 3 hours ago. 40% of the precincts reporting. Senator Kerry hanging on to a slim margin there with just about 3% of the vote. In Minnesota, 10 electoral votes up for grabs here, and we are showing Senator Kerry with 43% of the precincts reporting with more than half of the vote. And something interesting to note here, the last Republican to win the state was Nixon in '72. And in Colorado, 9 electoral votes up for grabs here, and as we've been telling you throughout the night, all 9 will go to the winner. That Amendment 36 to split the votes didn't pass, and right now President Bush is in the lead with 64% reporting. How are things shaping up around the country? Well, if you take a look here, Rudi just gave us the updated electoral vote tally. Reminder, 270 needed for the White House. President Bush with a projected 197 electoral votes to Senator Kerry, rather 188. But still waiting to hear from Alaska, and more importantly, still waiting to hear from some of those states where the polls have closed, but we just don't have enough information to project a winner.
But right now, all eyes on the big two, Ohio, Florida.
That's for sure.
Go a long way in deciding things. All right, Erica, thanks a lot. We're going to check in with you at the bottom of the hour.
And also, in the meantime, you can continuously see our updated election results on our ticker throughout the evening right below us. Check it out. Moving on now, thousands of absentee ballots that potentially could make a difference in Florida won't be counted until Thursday. Officials in Miami-Dade County say election workers have been overwhelmed by the task of counting as many as 95,000 of the ballots. The local election supervisor is promising they'll be finished by noon Eastern time on Thursday. A spokeswoman for Florida's Secretary of State says that's the deadline for all votes to be counted. A coalition of activists has filed a federal lawsuit seeking to extend that deadline for all absentee ballots to November 12th.
Measures to ban same-sex marriage are winning in at least 9 states. Voters in Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi, Montana, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Utah cast ballots on anti-gay marriage amendments today. CNN projects bans will pass in all of those states, except Oregon, where polls just closed at the top of the hour. The push to amend state constitutions to ban same-sex marriage gained steam 6 months ago after gays and lesbian couples won the right to marry in Massachusetts. President Bush supports a federal amendment banning same-sex marriage. Senator Kerry opposes it.
All right, we are watching a tight race in the Sunshine State, deciding who will be replacing retiring Democratic Senator Bob Graham there. It's between Republican Mel Martinez and Democrat Betty Castor. And there's also an extremely tight race in South Dakota, where Senate Minority Leader Tom Daschle is fighting to keep his seat there. The Democrat is competing against Republican John Thune.
The most expensive campaign in Colorado's history is between Republican Peter Coors of the famous brewing family and Democrat Ken Salazar. More than $15 million was spent by both candidates there, and as you see, they are neck and neck.
All right, heading out to the Middle East now. Al Jazeera says it received another videotape from the group that's claiming responsibility for kidnapping the head of CARE International in Iraq. The network says it won't air the tape because it contains graphic content which could be disturbing to viewers. Al Jazeera says the kidnappers are demanding that Britain withdraw its troops from Iraq immediately and are threatening to turn Hassan over to a group that's linked to al-Qaeda. That group is blamed for kidnapping and killing several other hostages, including 3 Americans. Sabotage attacks in northern Iraq have dealt a blow to the country's oil infrastructure. Once again, a huge explosion rocking a state-run oil field compound 22 miles southwest of Kirkuk. Officials say the attack will likely reduce Iraq's crude oil production. Earlier, saboteurs blew up an oil pipeline used to export 400,000 barrels a day. That attack is expected to cut off northern oil exports for the next 10 days.
Even under the best post-war recovery scenario, Iraqi officials say people in Baghdad can expect power blackouts through 2009. Electricity is cut off several hours each day throughout the country to spread around available supplies, since the already troubled power grid was damaged even more in the war. And officials say if Iraq does not get enough money to repair and build plants and transmission lines, and if sabotage continues, blackouts could be common well past the end of the decade.
Lawyers for convicted D.C. area sniper John Allen Muhammad are asking the Virginia Supreme Court to block a death sentence for their client. Muhammad was convicted of capital murder and received the death penalty in one of the sniper shooting deaths that terrorized Washington 2 years ago. His lawyers say he can't be sentenced to death because he didn't pull the trigger. Prosecutors counter that Muhammad and his accomplice formed a team and were equally to blame. The court is expected to rule in January.
Well, it was a roller coaster day on Wall Street, but blue chip stocks ended on a down note this election night. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 18 points to close at 10,035. The 2 other indexes finished marginally higher, with the S&P edging up 1/7 of a point and NASDAQ increasing almost 5 points.
All right, we have this breaking news to tell you about. CNN is projecting Arizona has gone to President Bush. Arizona has gone to President Bush. It has 10 electoral votes. We've been watching it closely for you. President Bush is the projected winner of Arizona, and we're going to give you a tally of what that leaves the vote count at right now. I believe it is 297 for President Bush. 207 for President Bush, 188 for Senator Kerry. All right, new research with stem cells may offer a breakthrough treatment for some cancer patients. We're going to tell you how far away researchers think they are from human trials.
Also ahead, you've been hearing it since you were a kid, eat your fruits and veggies. But are they really the key to good health? We'll tell you what a new study has found.
Finding good investments. Janice goes off the beaten path to hunt for healthy companies the market might have missed. Scopes out the big picture, drills into the details, checks for steady growth, taking a disciplined approach to look for solid ground. Janice picks stocks they think could go places by researching companies from the bottom up, aiming high to perform for Janice investors. Get there.
No matter what kind of business is behind your door, Jana King cleans it. From hotels, housekeeping, to hospitals, even schools and universities, and of course, offices. Jana King cleans just about everything, including my personal favorite. I never get tired of this one. Open the door to clean. Jana King, the king of clean.
We're going to make accounts payable exciting again. That's what we need to do, people.
In the time it takes to clean out your desk, you could save hundreds on car insurance. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Cool! Queasy Quest. That's crazy. 8 essential vitamins and minerals, but it won't save you money on car insurance.
Oh, okay.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Why haven't you called Geico?
The following is an urgent message for all inventors. Who cashed in on your last great idea? Do you have another invention? Do you need a patent? Then you need InventTech.
Everyone laughed at my pot that cooked and drained pasta. If I had the patent, I'd be rich.
Snap your fingers, turn on a light. That was my idea, but I never thought to get a patent.
Call InventTech now for a free inventor's kit and get our free video or DVD with your confidential submission.
Call 800-306-5600.
Welcome back. You're looking at live pictures from New York's Times Square, where CNN is broadcasting its election coverage on the 7th-story NASDAQ Tower. And welcome back again, everybody, and plenty for them and us to talk about. Some states recently called: Arizona going to President Bush, 10 electoral votes there, and the biggie, Florida, going to President Bush again. That was the linchpin for the election 2000 going to President Bush. He won by 537 votes. President Bush in much more of a comfortable lead, where those absentee ballots that still need to be counted won't even figure in. So President Bush wins Florida, CNN projecting that, and the 27 electoral votes. Now all eyes focus on Ohio as we look at the electoral votes as they stand now. President Bush with 234 electoral votes. Senator John Kerry 188. Again, Ohio could tell the tale, but President Bush could lose Ohio and possibly still win if he can pick up Wisconsin, Iowa. Again, so many scenarios still out there. We will continue to follow them for you. Well, researchers in Texas are reporting a new type of cancer treatment for clinical trials in humans. They say they've perfected a method in mice that delivers the treatment directly into cancerous tumors, bypassing healthy tissue. To do so, scientists manipulated a certain type of stem cells to ferry an anti-cancer therapy called interferon beta. They say they want to test the procedure on humans within a year if the Food and Drug Administration agrees.
A major study provides new evidence of the benefits of fruits and vegetables, but also suggests some advantages may be overstated. Subjects who ate 5 or more servings of fruit and vegetables every day had a slightly lower risk of heart disease than those who did not. However, the study found no significant differences in cancer rates. Researchers are considering a variety of explanations for that, and they say the possible benefits of specific foods haven't been disproven. The research appears in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute.
Well, no polls, no projections. All that counts is the points on the scoreboard. I guess different scoring.
We need a break. It's opening night in the NBA. Matt Morrison is here to highlight all the action for us. Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure. A little competition on the hardwood to go with the competition on the in the polling places. Coming off a championship campaign, the Detroit Pistons did make a lot of changes in the offseason. The defending champs return essentially the same team that won the title, with one big exception: big rocks on their fingers. There's the championship ring, $7,000. Nice touch too. They gave one to one of their loyal fans as well to show fan appreciation. One change for the Houston Rockets, a big change. Tracy McGrady, the NBA's leading scorer, joins that squad. He poured in 18 in Detroit, but it wouldn't be enough. Rasheed Wallace bucketed 24. Ben Wallace with the follow there for the slam. Pistons get a balanced effort in an 87-79 victory. Western Conference heavyweights, the Dallas Mavericks and Sacramento Kings going at it. Dallas maybe on the uptick as Sacramento is on the slide. The Mavericks getting a big night from Dirk Nowitzki. You saw him hit the 3 there, another 3 here. He scored 33, and Dallas opens with a win, 107-98. Shaquille O'Neal will be a game-time decision when he is scheduled to debut with the Miami Heat Wednesday night. Shaq has a strained left hamstring that's kept him on the bench for Miami's last 3 preseason games. The All-Star center missed 15 of 82 games in each of his last 3 seasons with the Lakers. The Jacksonville Jaguars may be without starting quarterback Byron Leftwich for the next several games. He had his sprained left knee examined by a specialist who recommended rest, not surgery, for now. Typically, the injury requires a 4 to 6 week recovery, but with the Jaguars on a bye week, coach Jack Del Rio hasn't ruled out that Leftwich may not miss any game time. So Jaguars off to a good start. Leftwich having a terrific season in his second year, but we may not see him for a little stretch here.
Okay, big loss for them. Okay, yeah. Matt, thanks. Yep.
Well, it's a fight to the finish line between President Bush and Senator John Kerry. The latest tally on the votes coming straight up.
Plus, some Republicans in Wisconsin are screaming sabotage. Find out what happened to these get out and vote vans. That's after the break.
The meeting was going along great. Then they asked for our website address.
We lost the client because we didn't have a website.
We're a small business. We don't have IT guys.
Introducing Website Solutions from Register.com. You can build your professional website and host it for as little as $4.95 a month. No IT guys, no more losing customers because you don't have a website.
Within minutes, we had a professional website.
Register.com. Website solutions start at under $5 a month.
The first time I fell in that bedroom, and I couldn't reach the phone.
When you fall, your chances of reaching a phone are very unlikely. Don't risk injury. Life Alert can help. Push this pendant, and Life Alert Security Center will summon the help you need, fast.
Life Alert is there when I need them, and I feel I can depend on them.
Please call 1-800-306-5600 for free information by mail. That's 1-800-306-5600. Call now.
Halloween is over, and it's time to complete your mission. Take the money you collected for Trick or Treat for UNICEF to the Big Green Machine at your participating supermarkets. Cartoon Network is a proud supporter of Trick or Treat for UNICEF. To find a Coinstar location near you, call 1-800-4-UNICEF or go to unicefusa.org. Kids next door, good job. Thanks from Cartoon Network and UNICEF.
And this is Headline News. I'm Mike Galanos.
And I'm Rudi Bakhtiar. Here are our headlines for you. CNN projects President Bush will win Florida and its 27 electoral votes. That makes Ohio a likely must-win for Kerry. That state remains too close to call. The latest tally in the Electoral College shows President Bush with 234, Senator Kerry with 188.
A car bombing in Baghdad killed at least 8 people today and wounded at least 10 others. The car rammed into concrete blast walls surrounding the education ministry. Now, the car bomb in the northern city of Mosul killed at least 4 people.
A woman who took 5 people hostage at a Caterpillar factory in Northern Carolina has surrendered to police. No one was injured during the 2-hour standoff in Clayton, southeast of Raleigh. The woman was apparently upset about a friend's firing from the construction equipment plant. With the state of Florida and its 27 electoral votes going to President Bush, John Kerry's campaign is likely looking to the Midwest.
Yeah, and Ohio is now the biggest prize still up for grabs. Let's turn it over to Chuck Roberts for the latest. Hey, Chuck.
You have set the scene very well. Thanks, Mike and Rudy. The race in the Buckeye State is indeed a very close win. All eyes on Ohio. Are there reasons to worry that Ohio will be this year's Florida with recounts and legal challenges? For a closer look now at voting in some key Ohio counties, we're rejoined by Terry Neal, political correspondent for WashingtonPost.com, chief political correspondent. Before we get to that, let's go one more time to Florida. This is a much bigger win for President Bush than I think most people thought. 5 percentage points. Do you credit his brother for some of that?
Well, and not necessarily. I mean, Florida is, and I know Florida a little bit. I worked at the Miami Herald before I came to the Washington Post. That was a while ago, but the state was already starting to change. The state is socially fairly moderate, but it's conservative economically and on foreign policy, and Iraq ultimately may have made a difference. Maybe the president's tax cuts, people like that. I think those issues probably mattered ultimately more than something like who the president's brother is. But the bottom line is it's a big win. It's outside the margin of error. A lot of the polls had it dead even. Exactly. Democrats can't blame it on Ralph Nader or hanging chads or anything else. It was a decisive win.
All right, let's go quickly to Ohio, and here's the spread right now, 51 to 48%. The president is in front, 76% counted. But let's go county by county. You've picked out, as of about 15 minutes ago, several counties that are underrepresented, and they are major urban areas.
Right. Well, now this is as of 10 minutes ago. This is changing by the minute. But what Democrats are saying is, hold on a second, don't give away Ohio just yet. And we looked at the numbers, and it does appear like the part of the state that votes Democrat the heaviest is a little bit behind in the reporting. Cuyahoga County and Summit County, which are basically Cleveland and Akron, are going heavily right now for John Kerry, 63 to 37 in Cuyahoga, 58 to 42 in Summit County. There seems to be a little bit of lag. When we checked about 10 minutes ago, and 63% of the state precincts overall were reporting, only about 50% of them were in these two counties. So they're lagging a little bit behind. And as we see, as time is passing here, the margin starts to get a little bit narrower as those votes in those two big major counties are counted.
Ohio is crucial for
Yes,
Kerry.
it is.
He really can't do it without Ohio.
Well, he can do it number-wise, but it would be very difficult to do, because basically what he's got to do is then his focus has got to shift. He's got to hold everything that Gore won in 2000, but his focus has got to shift on winning a couple states that Bush won in 2000. Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, or what's the last one I'm missing? Basically, a couple of those states he's got to win. The chances of doing that are not very good.
All right, thanks, Terry Neal, very much. Yeah. The White House is certainly more encouraged. John King at the White House said the 7 p.m. depression has been replaced by a mood of elation as of 11 o'clock Eastern. Quite a change. That's it. As promised, the presidential election delivering a cliffhanger ending. We'll bring you the latest throughout the night, and we'll reconvene here in 30 minutes. Rudy and Mike, back to you.
And we'll be looking to you, Chuck. Thank you. A federal elections observer was assaulted by an elections judge in Dallas County, Texas earlier today. That's according to state and federal law enforcement. The precinct has a history of voter irregularities. Now, authorities say the judge pushed the observer out the door. Officials are discussing what sort of charges are going to be filed. And that's not the only trouble being reported, folks. Philadelphia's top elections official says charges of fraud in that city this morning are, quote, completely unsubstantiated. Shortly after the polls opened, Republicans contended some machines had pre-recorded votes. Kerry campaign officials say the machines merely contained a record of past votes that would not be included in today's tally. Also, Milwaukee police are investigating the tire slashing of about 30 Republican vans from a Get Out the Vote campaign. A security guard has described a suspect, but no one has been arrested in that incident. And a polling station in Mount Laurel, New Jersey was closed for 2 hours because of a salt spill. Voting resumed when the mystery substance was identified. The Bush-Cheney campaign is accusing MoveOn.org of intimidating voters and violating laws in several different states. The Liberal Political Action Committee tells CNN its staffers are instructed to follow the rules and contends that Republicans are creating a phony story.
And on to the Senate races now. Democrats have picked up a seat in Illinois. CNN projecting Barack Obama defeating Republican Alan Keyes to become Illinois' junior senator. The rising Democratic star will take the seat left open by GOP Senator Peter Fitzgerald's retirement.
Flying in and out of Chicago should be getting a little easier.
And just one sneeze could end this world record attempt. The domino effect after the break.
Never will there be an Alexander like you, Alexander the Great.
Each victory had its price.
Conquer your fear, and you'll conquer death!
Alexander, be reasonable! Alexander, rated R, starts November 24th.
The following consumer update is brought to you by Experian. Here's consumer advocate Chuck Whitlock.
Hello. A new law has just been passed, which gives you the right to see what's in your credit file from each of the 3 national credit bureaus every year for free. This law is called the FACT Act, and it will go into effect by geographical region over the next year. The exact date depends on where you live. The good news is that no matter where you live, your free Experian credit report is available online at freecreditreport.com. Staying on top of your credit at freecreditreport.com can not only help you save thousands of dollars, it's also an important step to help protect you against identity theft. So join the millions of Americans who have already received their free Experian credit report at freecreditreport.com. Why wait? It's fast, easy, and free. freecreditreport.com.
Your free Experian credit report is available nationwide right now at freecreditreport.com.
Keeping children safe from sexual abuse is an adult's job. That's why Darkness to Light has created the 7 steps to protect our children. Go online, download it free. It's that easy. It's that important.
A suicidal woman in Chile is safe now thanks to firefighters and friends. During a 3-hour standoff, police repeatedly tried to convince her not to jump from the 10th floor of her apartment building. Firefighters and friends were ultimately able to reach the woman, snatching her to safety. Authorities say she'd been mixing medication for her depression with alcohol.
A U.S. soldier pleads guilty to deserting the Army 39 years ago. At a military tribunal in Japan, Charles Jenkins says he left his unit in South Korea to avoid hazardous duty, then fled to North Korea. The plea is part of a bargain for a lighter sentence. Jenkins is 64 years old and is sick. Japan also asking for leniency since his wife is Japanese. The couple met after she was abducted by North Korea back in 1978.
Thousands of striking workers will vote tomorrow on whether to end the longest labor walkout in Atlantic City casino history. The union, representing about 10,000 casino and hotel employees there, has reached a tentative 5-year contract agreement to halt the month-old strike. The deal improves wages and benefits for bartenders, cocktail servers, housekeepers, and other service workers. It also guards against the casino's practice of leasing space to non-union restaurants and bars.
Expect fewer delays at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. A deal between the Federal Aviation Administration and airlines cutting 37 daily flights went into effect yesterday. A recent FAA study lowered the number of flights the airport can handle without creating gridlock in good or marginal weather. Officials say the reduction is expected to reduce delays by about 20%. Well, parents in Britain may continue to spank their children. British lawmakers have voted overwhelmingly against a measure which would have outlawed spanking. The British Minister for Children says it could have made most parents in Britain criminals. Some backers of the measure say children deserve the same legal protections as adults against being hit, but the lawmakers did not want to be accused of intruding in family issues.
All right, the numbers are still rolling in on 2004 election night. Colorado, the state of Colorado, CNN is projecting that has gone to Bush with its 9 electoral votes. President Bush won that state by 9 percentage points back in 2000. And we have another one to tell you about. The state of Montana also going to President Bush with its 3 electoral votes. President Bush won that state by 25 percentage points, 25% back in the year 2000. And that gives our total tally up till now, 237 electoral votes going to President Bush. Senator Kerry with 188 electoral votes.
Well, a man from a township in Pennsylvania has a good opening line no matter the political persuasion of the person he wants to meet. His name, Kerry Bush. It may seem quirky to some people, but probably not to his neighbor, John George. Kerry Bush says he is not related to the family of Bush presidents, but he does have an Uncle George. So there you have it.
Well, our up-to-the-minute election coverage is continuing on the other side of this break.
We'll have the latest numbers and a live report from Boston where John Kerry and his supporters are keeping a close eye on those numbers and on those numbers in Ohio. Keep it right here on CNN Headline News, your Need to Know Network.
And madame, your $20 bill is now gone. Or is it?
Getting cash back with some credit cards can be a little tricky. Not with the City Dividend Card. Call now and you'll earn a full 5% cash back on the things you buy every day at gas stations, supermarkets, and drugstores. You'll also earn a full 1% cash back on everything else you buy. And getting your cash back is easy. There's no convoluted rules, no up-tos, no sleight of hand. Just cash back without the struggle. Plus, call today and you'll enjoy 0% APR for 1 year on balance transfers. So what's stopping you? Call 1-800-328-5376 now and start earning a full 5% cash back at gas stations, supermarkets, and drugstores. The City Dividend Card. Finally, a card that makes getting cash back painless. So call now.
CNN Headline News 24/7.
When major events happen, Canadians turn to CBC News.
Putting together a cabinet is a question of skill and regional balance.
Balanced coverage.
There's a harrowing story out of Winnipeg tonight.
I think the real question is, what are we going to do now?
Leading correspondents focus on news that affects you.
Black's legacy.
Look in the house. There's nothing left.
The source Canadians trust. CBC News, the national. Weeknights, 9 p.m. Eastern on CBC News World, on 10 p.m. local on CBC Television.
Ted Johnson. Sam Cooper. Are you looking at my belly?
No, sir. Sorry, sir.
When you go to a customer's home and he's wearing nothing but a towel, you will look him in the eye and give him the respect he deserves. Give me 50.
At Shaw, only the best get to serve you.
Glad you're with us, everyone. This is Headline News. I'm Mike Galanos.
And I'm Rudi Bakhtiar. Let's get straight to the headlines. The polls are now closed in every state but Alaska. CNN has projected President Bush will win the state of Florida. That will give him 246 electoral votes to Senator John Kerry's 188.
Al Jazeera has a new tape of a relief worker abducted in Iraq. Margaret Hassan's abductors are threatening to turn her over to the group headed by Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. On the tape, the head of CARE International in Iraq pleads for Britain to withdraw its troops and spare her life.
Singer Michael Jackson is facing a new lawsuit accusing him of sexual assault. The alleged incident dates back 20 years. The accuser claims he repressed the memory until recently. He says Jackson assaulted him over a 9-day period, part of it during a limousine ride from Louisiana to California. All right, polls in the last outstanding state of Alaska close in just half an hour, but there is plenty to report on right now.
Yes, there is. Erica Hill joins us now with the latest. Might you be talking about Ohio at this point?
No Ohio yet. Not quite yet. Everybody wants to know about Ohio.
That's the one.
I just want to make sure that you stick around for a few more hours so that we can keep those eyes glued to headline news. What we can tell you right now, though, Montana, CNN is projecting, will go to President Bush, 3 electoral votes there. And the state of Colorado, 9 electoral votes, CNN is projecting, will go to President Bush. And this has been a hotly contested Senate race there, so some idea that maybe that also helped bring people to the polls. Taking a look now at the state of Ohio, not a winner for you, Mike, but we can tell you with 79% of the precincts reporting, this is still an incredibly tight race. President Bush right now with 51% of the vote, just 3 percentage points above Senator Kerry. Looking now at the state of Iowa, also a pretty tight race there. 76% of the precincts reporting, as you can see, just about a 1% margin separating the president and the senator. Ralph Nader also picking up 1% of the vote in Iowa. In Washington State, this is some of the first numbers that we've seen from Washington State. Here's what's interesting. 14% of the polls reporting, of the precincts reporting, Senator Kerry leading with about a 5 percentage point lead at this point. And that is consistently what we've seen in some of the polls over the last few months, about a 5 percentage point lead in the polls. Now in Florida, CNN is projecting that President Bush will take the 27 electoral votes up for grabs there, and with a much larger and more comfortable, someone put it earlier, margin than he had in the 2000 election, where of course he won that state by just some 500 plus votes. So just to update you on the tallies at this point, CNN is projecting President Bush 246 electoral votes, and Senator Kerry at this hour, CNN projects, has 188 electoral votes. Of course, all that on the way to the magic number of 270. Mike, Rudy.
All right, Erica, thank you. We're going to be checking back with you in 30 minutes as well.
And in the meantime, you can see continuously updated election results on our ticker throughout the night. Also want to get you caught up on some of the very tight Senate races. Let's check in on some of those. A couple of those races, razor-thin edge right now in South Dakota. Senate Minority Leader Tom Daschle is really trying to fight off the challenge from Republican John Thune. CNN has not yet projected a winner in that race. Thune with, again, razor-thin edge in that race. And in Colorado, Republican Peter Coors and Democrat Ken Salazar fighting over the Senate seat of retiring Republican Ben Nighthorse Campbell. CNN has not yet projected a winner in that race either.
All right, now let's take a look at a couple of races for governor in Indiana. CNN projects Republican Mitch Daniels will take the job from Democratic Governor Joe Kernan. Daniels is President Bush's former budget director. Also in Missouri, Democrat Claire McCaskill and Republican Matt Blunt are in a cliffhanger. McCaskill, the state auditor, defeated incumbent Governor Bob Holden in the Democratic primary. Blunt is the Missouri Secretary of State.
On to Florida, Miami-Dade County election workers are overwhelmed by absentee ballots. Officials say they have received 80 to 95,000 absentee ballots. They probably won't have them all counted before noon Thursday. That's the deadline for all votes to be counted. Now, a lawsuit seeks to extend that date to November 12th. Bush supporters say the absentee ballots could give them an edge in Florida, but then again, this is probably a moot point because the number of absentee ballots not quite within that margin. President Bush again a comfortable victory, or more comfortable again, that is, than in 2000.
And how about we tell you about some of the problems reported at polling places today. A federal elections observer was assaulted by an elections judge in Dallas County, Texas. According to state and federal law enforcement, the precinct has a history of voter irregularities, and authorities say the judge pushed the observer out the door. Officials are still discussing what sort of charges are going to be filed there. In Philadelphia, top election officials says that charges of fraud in that city this morning are, quote, completely unsubstantiated. Shortly after the polls opened, Republicans contended some machines had pre-recorded votes. Kerry campaign officials say the machines merely contained a record of past votes that would not be included in today's tally. Milwaukee police are investigating the tire slashings of about 20 vans from a Republican Get Out the Vote campaign there. A security guard has described a suspect, but no one has been arrested. Also, a polling station in Mount Laurel, New Jersey was closed for 2 hours because of a salt spill. Voting resumed, though, when the mystery substance was identified. And also, the Bush-Cheney campaign is accusing MoveOn.org of intimidating voters and violating laws in several states. The Liberal Political Action Committee telling CNN that its staffers are instructed to follow the rules and accuses Republicans of trying to suppress voter turnout.
President Bush is watching the election returns at the White House. His father, former President George Bush, is among those who flew in to offer support as results came in. Among those results, CNN projects that President Bush has taken Florida's 27 electoral votes, one of the night's biggest prizes for the White House.
It's safe to say that President Bush loves his brother Jeb, but perhaps loves him a little bit more tonight. Florida, of course, decided by that 537 votes, I believe it was. Last time it was the state that took this election to the Supreme Court. Mr. Bush knew he needed it this time. His campaign always said, oh, we can win without Florida. They knew they needed it. They know they need Ohio. That is now the central focus for the rest of this night, or at least the next few hours. But the president, much more confident now. They invested a lot of time in Florida. History might record those hurricanes as a potential deciding factor in the race for Florida this time. The campaign was essentially suspended for a while. Governor Bush told President Bush, don't come here. We have to deal with the hurricanes. But Governor Bush's approval ratings went up in that period of time. Most here at the White House think the president fought pretty well, but that his brother's popularity and his brother's advice and his brother's effort helped deliver the state this time by a bigger margin.
Now, the president returned to Washington after making one last campaign stop in Ohio and voting near his ranch in Texas.
Senator Kerry, for his part, worked down to the wire, hoping, among other things, to boost Latino turnout. He has captured big prizes with Pennsylvania and California. Sean Calebs is in Boston with the Kerry campaign. Hi, Sean. How are you doing over there?
Oh, Rudy, it's been a long night, but I don't think it's the way the Democrats saw things playing out, at least not to this point. We know that John Kerry is at his house on Beacon Hill, not terribly far from here. Earlier, we thought he had been at the Westin, where a number of his campaign members had been watching the activity throughout the night. Crowd here in Copley Square has gotten significantly more somber, I'd say, over the last half hour or so when Florida officially went to President Bush. About that time, the rain started falling here. So I'll let you read into that, how that is affecting the crowd here as well. Without question, the campaign had looked very closely at those swing states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida, believing they needed to win all of those to win the presidency. Turnout was very good across the nation, and they thought that this heavy Democratic turnout would indeed bolster John Kerry's chances to win in 2004. But even if he wins Ohio, many are believing it's going to be very difficult for Senator Kerry to indeed pull out victory this evening. So, Rudy, it may not be as long a night as many had anticipated, but certainly Kerry is not ready to make a concession speech by a long shot.
Well, they can't be happy about Florida, but they're probably happy about Pennsylvania. What state are they watching very closely now? Ohio?
Ohio's it. Ohio is it. The way the numbers spell out, if indeed President Bush wins Ohio, it is all over. It is going to be a short night. John Kerry still needs to win Ohio and a number of other states if he is going to have the 270 electoral votes needed to become president. We know that Senator Kerry, Senator Edwards are supposed to be down here on the stage sometime within the next half hour, 45 minutes. We don't know if they'll be ready to talk about the way the race is going, if indeed they're going to lean one way or the other. But the crowd is still here. It is thinning somewhat. All the performers, everybody from Sheryl Crow, Carole King, James Taylor, a Boston native, and John Bon Jovi just finished up within the last 15 or so minutes. He offered somewhat of a somber message to the crowd gathered here, said, regardless of how this election goes, it is time for the nation to begin healing its wounds and move forward as one. Rudy?
All right, Sean Caleb's with a Kerry camp following closely. Thank you.
The election affected trading on Wall Street today. Blue chip stocks ended on a down note after unconfirmed internet spread rumors about exit polls triggered a sharp reversal. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 18 points to close at 10,035. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 finished marginally higher. Opening defense of their NBA title, the Detroit Pistons show off their new look this season.
It's all about the jewelry. Matt Morrison has a sports update for us straight ahead.
If you were born between 1919 and 1964, call now to get free information about the Silver Care Plan.
The average funeral now costs over $6,000, and many can cost up to $10,000 or more. But your survivors may only be able to receive government death benefits of up to $300, leaving your loved ones to pay the balance. You can protect your loved ones with the Silver Care Plan. The Silver Care Plan pays tax-free cash that can be used for final and any other expenses.
The last thing I'd want to do is leave my wife or kids with bills.
It's easy to get, and you don't even have to take a medical exam.
In times like these, it's so important to plan ahead.
With the Silver Care Plan, your rates will never increase, your benefits will never decrease, your plan cannot be canceled, and coverage starts as soon as you're accepted.
By starting now, you can lock in the lowest rate possible.
With the Silver Care Plan, I didn't have to worry about anything.
You also get a free planning guide to carry out your wishes, so everything is done just as you'd want it to be. It's easy to use and easy to understand.
It gives me peace of mind, knowing everything is taken care of and nothing is left to chance.
I got a plan for myself, and I got one for my parents, too.
It's good to know my family will be taken care of if anything happens to me.
The Silver Care Plan is something we all have to think about. It's something we'll all someday need. Find out how you can protect your loved ones. To get free information about the plan and its benefits, call the toll-free number on your screen. Don't put it off. Call now.
To get free information about the Silver Care Plan, call 1-800-306-5500. Call 1-800-306-5500. Don't wait. Call 1-800-306-5500 now.
And welcome Welcome back. CNN projecting that the state of Oregon goes to Senator John Kerry. So John Kerry picking up 7 electoral votes. This race a lot tighter in 2000 when Al Gore won that by about a half a percentage point. This go around, Senator Kerry with a much easier win. 68% of the precincts reporting 54-45. Again, Senator John Kerry picking up the 7 votes. Here's your updated Electoral College. The votes, 246 for President Bush, 195 for John Kerry. All eyes on Ohio. That likely to tell the tale.
It's a toss-up, not the election, the pro basketball season, which tipped off Tuesday night.
And the incumbent champion, Detroit Pistons, off to a fast start. Matt Morrison in with some highlights from opening night as we look at the champs. Hey, Matt.
Yeah, 3 games on the NBA schedule, including the defending champion Pistons, who, well, you see a lot of big names in new places this season, but the Pistons proceed with the attitude that if it isn't broke, why fix it? And they didn't. The only thing new about the Pistons this season is they'll be wearing those big fat championship rings, $7 grand a piece. And boy, nice touch here as they do a little fan appreciation, giving a random fan one of those championship rings. One of those new faces in new places, Tracy McGrady, last year's NBA leading scorer, bucketed 18 in his Houston debut, but it wasn't enough to offset Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace. Rasheed scored 24. The Pistons get a balanced scoring effort in an 87-79 opening night victory. Meantime, in the Western Conference, a good one between the Kings and the Mavericks. Dallas relying on Dirk Nowitzki a lot this season. Nowitzki hot from the outside, hits that three-pointer, and then here to end the third quarter, beats the buzzer with another 3. He scored 33. The Mavericks win it 107-98 over the Kings. Add injury to insult after the New England Patriots' first loss in over a year. The Pats also lost Pro Bowl cornerback Ty Law for the next 4 to 6 weeks. His agent told the Boston Globe that Law has a broken bone in his left foot and he'll miss the next several games. And the baseball postseason awards parade is underway with the American League Gold Glove selections. Of note, Anaheim first baseman Darren Erstad is the first player in Major League history to win Gold Gloves as an outfielder and now an infielder. Detroit's Ivan Rodriguez won his 11th Gold Glove as a catcher. That's the most ever at that position. And Yankees captain Derek Jeter won his first Gold Glove as the premier American League shortstop. And of course, Mike and Ruby, he didn't have to compete with Alex Rodriguez at shortstop this season. That's why perhaps Derek Jeter gets the honor this year.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much.
Thanks, Matt. All right, a recap of the latest election results straight ahead for you.
Now the projections show Florida going for President Bush. Ohio is shaping up to be a pivotal state. We'll get some insight from Michelle Mitchell next.
The world's largest fully electronic stock exchange.
There's a thief in your office who steals daily, and it's not an employee. Don't let your copier steal company profits.
Every morning, CNN connects you directly to the news. Trust American Morning, where real news makes the difference. CNN tomorrow, 7 Eastern.
Close shave.
Barbasol.
Better buy Barbasol, Mom.
With 7 great flavors, better buy Barbasol.
CNN tomorrow. The race is done. Now, who won? Get all the latest on Election 04. Only on Larry King Live. CNN tomorrow, 9 Eastern.
More Americans watch CNN than any other news channel.
Hey, welcome to Headline News. I'm Mike Galanos.
I'm Rudi Bakhtiar. Let's get straight to the headlines. It could all come down to Ohio. CNN has projected President Bush will win Florida's 27 electoral votes. The Sunshine State was the holdout back in election 2000. Right now, the president has 246 electoral votes to Senator John Kerry's 195.
The jury in the double murder trial of Scott Peterson could begin deliberations as early as tomorrow. In closing arguments today, the defense told jurors prosecutors portrayed Peterson as a jerk and a liar, but they did not prove he killed his pregnant wife.
Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat is getting better, and his doctors are ready to conduct more tests on him. Arafat has been hospitalized in France since last weekend. His doctors expect to have a full diagnosis by Saturday. Arafat's spokesman says that he's suffering from an abnormal blood count and not leukemia. With President Bush capturing the state of Florida, John Kerry's campaign is likely looking to the Buckeye State.
Yeah, Ohio remains the biggest prize, still up for grabs. Let's go back to the election desk and Chuck Roberts. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Mike, Rudy. It is indeed up for grabs. The race in Ohio is a very close one indeed. Should we be concerned? There'll be a slew of legal challenges following the election. For example, Knox County, Ohio, Mount Vernon is still voting. The lines are still there. They're bringing refreshments to the people in line. All right, let's break down some of the voting in Ohio and key counties. We're joined again by Michelle Mitchell, correspondent for PBS's Now. Michelle, welcome back. Well, first of all, let's go to the Ohio board overall. Here's the spread. It's 4 points. President Bush is leading with 83% counted, 52 to 48%. But you have some interesting counties that have not been heard from in full.
We got to start with Cuyahoga County, Chuck. This is the big one. This is the biggest county right now. You have 76% of that county has reported in, and look at that split right there. Kerry is adding exponentially votes. Now, what's interesting about Cuyahoga is that the lines were so long that they were actually voting past 9 o'clock. So they are just, that 76 looks impressive, but Chuck, they are still counting those right now.
Other end of the state, the second biggest county is Hamilton, which includes Cincinnati. Let's see the results there.
And here you've got very close, Kerry, Bush, but again, Kerry adding votes, 31% reporting.
Okay, and that's amazing. 31% reporting at almost 1 a.m., and that's an Eastern time zone state. Finally, the Akron area, which includes Summit County.
And here you have again a split 57-43. Kerry again adding votes. Chuck, less than 130,000 votes separate the two candidates. That is considered very slim when you're talking about a presidential election. That's why it is such a nail-biter. What's interesting is how many resources both candidates shifted to Ohio in the recent weeks. In fact, Kerry pulling almost his entire Virginia staff, throwing them at Ohio. There have been they've made a lot of stops there. The president making some of his final stops in Ohio.
Any anecdotal evidence of irregularities that you've heard of in Ohio?
You have lawsuits about provisional ballots. You have the Republicans saying that suing in order to be poll observers. So is there the potential for lawsuits? Well, Chuck, are we a litigious society?
Exactly, yes. Finally, no matter who wins this race, half the electorate's going to be very, very bitter. Do you see any healing process in the next 4 years, no matter who wins?
That is the big question tonight, because this has been one of the most acrimonious elections that I have ever seen. I haven't covered as many as a lot of the journalists who are covering this particular election, but Chuck, I have seen actual fist fights. I have been on planes where people have argued. I live in a very Democratic neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York. I heard people arguing and getting right in each other's faces. We've got lawsuits, for instance, 2 gentlemen down in Florida filing a $15,000 lawsuit because they dressed up as flip-flops and went to a Kerry rally on Halloween and got beaten up. So is it vicious out there? Absolutely. Is it going to be a long time healing what's gone on the last few months? You better believe it.
And extreme politicians are the ones who are being rewarded, are they not?
Exactly. Because of gerrymandering, you have a situation where for both parties, it's the extremes that win the primaries, and that does not help the political consensus.
Michelle Mitchell, okay, again, Bush up, 246, 195. He is, what, 24 votes away from sealing the deal. That's it for us. For the latest other news, Rudy and Mike, back to you.
All right, Chuck. We'll
Thanks,
see you
Chuck.
again in the next half hour. Another allegation against pop superstar Michael Jackson has surfaced.
It involves a teenager and a limousine and dates back to the 1980s. Story straight ahead.
Girl power activated. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll call you from the car.
Dial Laura.
Technology to go. Chevy Trailblazer. An American revolution.
Why do we work? Why do we get up every day and go to work? Because we make things, fix things, send our kids off to learn things. At the Principal Financial Group, we know you don't just work to retire, you work to live. That's why we give people the financial tools to help them keep more of the money they make and do more with the money they save. You work hard. We make work hard for you. The Principal Financial Group. We understand what you're working for.
Uplift your soul with the blessed songs of inspiration, brilliantly performed by Grammy-nominated pianist Enrique Chia. Beautifully orchestrated, these timeless classics are a celebration of life and creation. Loved by generations, the piano of Enrique Chia will move you. Enjoy peaceful reflection as you listen to over 30 unforgettable songs. Millions have experienced the joy of these powerful melodies. Now you can too. To order your 2-CD set for only $24.95, call 1-800-306-5500. Call now.
Well, you are looking at live pictures from a Bush rally that's going on near the White House in the Ronald Reagan building. People there expecting President Bush to come out shortly after 1 a.m. Eastern time to speak. A lot of excitement there as the latest tallying comes in. Florida going to President Bush with its 27 electoral votes. Again, you're looking at a live picture there in Washington, D.C. of a Bush rally going on. President Bush expected shortly to take the podium there. Of course, we will bring you that live as it develops. To other news now. Michael Jackson has another legal battle on his hands. This one with some twists. A man has filed a lawsuit claiming that Jackson sexually assaulted him 20 years ago when the plaintiff was 18. The accuser says it happened over a 9-day period, some of it on a limousine ride from Louisiana to California. He claims he repressed the memory of the incident until recently. Jackson hasn't been served with the lawsuit yet.
Principal lawyer for Scott Peterson argues the prosecution's strategy in the murder trial was to make the jury hate the defendant. In his closing argument, attorney Mike Galanos said prosecutors failed to prove Peterson killed his pregnant wife and unborn child. He says the prosecution portrayed Peterson as a jerk and a liar, but they did not prove he is guilty of the charges. The prosecution presented its closing argument yesterday. The jury could begin deliberations tomorrow.
Researchers in Texas are reporting a new type of cancer treatment for clinical trials in humans. They say they've perfected a method in mice that delivers the treatment directly into cancerous tumors, bypassing healthy tissue. To do that, though, scientists manipulated a certain type of stem cell to ferry the anti-cancer therapy called interferon beta. They say they want to test the procedure on humans within the year if the Food and Drug Administration agrees.
A major study provides new evidence of the benefits of fruits and vegetables, but also suggests some advantages may be overstated. Subjects who ate 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables every day had a slightly lower risk of heart disease than those who did not. However, the study found no significant difference in cancer rates. Researchers are considering a variety of explanations for that, and they say the possible benefits of specific foods have not been disproven. The research appears in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute.
In other health news, a Dutch study suggests that providing regular flu shots to older patients save lives, especially for the oldest of them. Repeated vaccinations lowered the risk of dying by 24%, and skipping just one vaccination raised that risk by about the same amount. Flu shots save the largest proportion of lives in the group of patients over the age of 80, and even in patients with a second illness, the benefits remained. The study appears in the Journal of the American Medical Association.
Well, pot smokers in Alaska are trying to pass a ballot measure that would legalize marijuana. If voters approve, adults will be allowed to use, grow, and sell pot under regulations adopted by the legislature. It would make Alaska the first state to decriminalize marijuana. The federal drug czar has denounced the measure. The polls close in Alaska in just a couple of minutes. Well, up-to-the-minute election coverage continues on the other side of the break.
We're going to have the latest numbers and live analysis of all the key races for you. First, though, let's take another look at the rally for President Bush near the White House. Those are live pictures you're looking at. He is expected to take the podium shortly. Keep it tuned to Headline News Tonight, where your Need to Know Network.
How much are you paying for internet service? $21? $23? Aren't you being charged too much? We think so. With People PC Online, you get unlimited internet access for only $10.95 a month. Go to peoplepc.com now to try us free for 30 days and compare us with your current ISP. With People PC Online, you get internet service for less than half of what the big guys cost. And that's just the beginning. You also get more local access numbers than AOL, plus a smart dialer that automatically chooses the fastest, most reliable number. So you always get the best connection. All for just $10.95 a month. Try People PC Online free for 30 days and see for yourself. Go to peoplepc.com for a quick 3-minute download of our easy-to-use software. Or call 1-800-PEOPLE-PC. People PC Online, a better way to internet.